It's the kind of fall from grace that only Hollywood can stage. Two women, once hailed as trailblazers of a new era in pop culture, beautiful, talented, and seemingly unstoppable, now find themselves at the center of endless controversy. Rachel Zegler and Meghan Markle had the world at their feet. The headlines, the red carpets, the glowing interviews that praised them as the future. But somewhere between the spotlight and the social media feeds, the love turned sour. Today, they're not just trending, they're polarizing. Once adored, now dissected. It's not just about what they said or did, it's about how quickly the tide can turn in the court of public opinion. And if you think their stories aren't connected, think again. Let's talk about how two rising stars became cautionary tales with the snap of a finger. When Rachel Zegler landed the role of Maria in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, she wasn't just a rising star, she was a symbol. A young Latina actress headlining one of Hollywood's most beloved musicals, handpicked by Spielberg himself. It felt like a win for representation, for Gen Z, and for the industry, and for a while she rode that wave of support like a pro. Her performance was praised, her voice, flawless, her Instagram posts, witty, sweet, and self-aware. She wasn't trying too hard, she was just being Rachel, fresh, funny, politically aware, a modern Cinderella. Speaking of Cinderella, that's exactly what she was poised to become. Disney cast her in the live-action reboot of Snow White, and fans cheered. Zegler, with her Broadway roots and activist spark, was about to lead one of the biggest fairy tale franchises of all time. Everything pointed towards superstardom, but somewhere along the line, the fairy dust wore off. It started with interviews, the kind where Rachel tried to sound empowered and evolved, but it came off to many as smug. In one now infamous clip, she said her Prince Charming wouldn't be saving her, and that the old version of Snow White was weird. What was meant to be a feminist reframe turned into internet fodder. Critics labeled her ungrateful, disrespectful, and worst of all, arrogant. Suddenly, the love she'd built turned into digital side-eyes. TikTok users began remixing her interviews, mocking her tone. Disney regrets this, some whispered. Others called her a PR disaster. The same Twitter threads that once cheered her casting were now filled with clown emojis and memes labeling her as entitled Gen Z. Then came the ghosting. Disney began subtly backing away. Marketing around Snow White slowed. Social media sleuths noticed she was missing from press materials, promo pages, and even Disney Plus tags. Rumors swirled that Disney was quietly distancing itself from the actress they once bet big on. Rachel addressed the criticism, sort of. Sometimes with sarcasm, sometimes with silence. But the damage was done. Even when she tried to do things right, like defend the strike or speak out on industry issues, she couldn't shake the perception that she was trying too hard. And it wasn't just about Snow White anymore. It became a conversation about likability, about humility, and about how women in Hollywood are expected to walk a very thin line. Be strong, but not too strong. Be proud, but not too proud. For Rachel, every post, every comment, every interview became a Rorschach test for the public's collective mood. In a span of months, she went from Hollywood's darling to internet punchline. And the most brutal part? The backlash wasn't based on any scandal or crime. It was all vibe, all tone, all perception. Sound familiar? Because if Rachel Zegler's fall felt sudden, Meghan Markle's felt seismic. If Rachel Zegler's fall from grace felt like a social media slip, Meghan Markle's was an international storm. But much like Rachel, Meghan's journey began with admiration. Before she became the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan was known for her role as the sharp, stylish Rachel Zane on Suits. She had the brains, the beauty, the blog, and a message: empowerment, charity, and modern womanhood. People liked her. She was relatable, a self-made woman who spoke out on issues of gender equality and racial representation long before her royal chapters began. Then came the fairy tale. When news broke that Meghan was dating Prince Harry, the world lit up with curiosity. An American actress, biracial, divorced. It was as if Buckingham Palace was finally being dragged into the 21st century. Their engagement was historic. Their wedding, watched by millions. Meghan walked herself down the aisle, wore a minimalist gown, and became the first woman of color to join the British royal family in a significant public-facing role. For a moment, she was the moment. But like clockwork, admiration turned. Slowly at first, then all at once. It started with headlines. Subtle jabs comparing Meghan's every move to Kate Middleton's. If Kate wore an off-the-shoulder dress, it was elegant. If Meghan did it, it was inappropriate. If Kate cradled her baby bump, it was sweet. If Meghan did the same, she was attention-seeking. The double standards weren't just obvious, they were brutal. And it wasn't just the British tabloids. Even US outlets began dipping their toes into the narrative. Suddenly, Meghan wasn't just new, she was controversial. The criticism came in waves. She was accused of breaking protocol, being too ambitious, having too much influence over Harry. The press dissected her facial expressions, her outfits, even how she held her child. Every royal move she made was used against her. Then came the breaking point, Megxit. In 2020, Meghan and Harry announced they were stepping back as senior royals. Cue media frenzy. Overnight, she went from duchess to diva. Critics accused her of dragging Harry away from his family, painting her as manipulative and controlling. She was no longer seen as a woman trying to survive. She was rebranded as a villain in her own fairy tale. And the media ran with it. It didn't matter that she'd endured relentless scrutiny or that she'd admitted to struggling with her mental health. What mattered was the narrative, and it sold. Meghan the disruptor. Meghan the fame-hungry outsider. Meghan the schemer. The headlines wrote themselves. Even after relocating to California and stepping out of the royal spotlight, Meghan couldn't escape it. Her interviews were picked apart. Her podcast was mocked. Her lifestyle brand was dismissed before it even launched. Her every move, from fashion to philanthropy, was seen through a lens of suspicion. Just like Rachel, Meghan's missteps weren't about actions. They were about tone. She was too polished, too rehearsed, too perfect. Or at least that's how people perceived her. And when public perception turns, good intentions don't always save you. Remember that viral video Meghan posted recently? The one with the soft focus lighting, the carefully curated setting, and the tone that felt just a little too controlled? It was meant to be inspiring, empowering, but the internet turned it into a meme. Again, because when the tide turns, even your best PR efforts can feel like another strike against you. And just like that, Meghan became more brand than person, and not in a good way. It's no longer about what she says, but how she says it. And the louder she tries to reclaim her narrative, the harder it is to drown out the backlash. Yet the irony is this: both Meghan and Rachel stood for things we say we want: representation, independence, authenticity, but somehow the same qualities that made them stars also made them targets. And that's the part no one wants to admit. Meghan's story is no longer just about royalty. It's about what happens when a woman breaks the mold and the mold fights back. So what do Rachel Zegler and Meghan Markle really have in common? On the surface, not much. One is a Gen Z rising star with a Broadway voice and a blockbuster resume. The other is a former actress turned royal turned media mogul, navigating a level of scrutiny most of us can't even imagine. But dig just a little deeper, and a pattern starts to emerge. A pattern that's becoming all too familiar in the age of viral fame and cancel culture. Both were loved until they weren't. Both were celebrated as symbols of change until the crowd decided they were too much. Too loud, too confident, too rehearsed, too different, and the exact traits that once made them trailblazers became the same ones the media used to flip the script. What we're seeing is not just a backlash, it's a full-blown cultural cycle. First comes the rise, discovery, fascination, and breathless coverage. We can't get enough of them. They're fresh, they're exciting, they represent something new. For Rachel, it was the Latina star of West Side Story, the modern face of a classic. For Meghan, it was the biracial American shaking up the House of Windsor. We root for them, we post about them, we celebrate the doors they're opening. Then comes the plateau, and with it, the nitpicking. Suddenly, the media tone changes. Coverage becomes colder. Every interview is combed through for contradictions. Every smile is analyzed. Are they sincere or calculating? Are they humble or fake modesty? The headlines get harsher. Social media stops cheering and starts rolling its eyes. Then, almost inevitably, comes the fall. It's rarely caused by one scandal. Instead, it's death by 1,000 cuts. Rachel Zegler made a few awkward press tour comments, and boom, she was branded entitled. Meghan Markle gave a tell-all interview, and boom, she was accused of destroying the monarchy. The details don't even matter at a certain point. What matters is momentum, and once the public decides you're over, it can feel impossible to reverse it. But here's the thing, no one talks about the backlash sells. Drama drives clicks. Controversy keeps people watching. In the case of both Rachel and Meghan, it's no longer about who they are. It's about what they represent. And for some people, they represent change they're not ready for. Rachel is a young woman of color in Hollywood, outspoken, stylish, and unwilling to play the grateful newcomer forever. Meghan is a biracial American woman who entered the most traditional, conservative institution in Britain and dared to want out. That alone is enough to make some people uncomfortable. And let's not pretend it's just the media. the public plays a role too. We elevate celebrities, then scrutinize every word they say. We follow them online, then drag them for being too curated. We beg for authenticity, but punish them when they give it to us. We claim to want progress, but only if it fits neatly into our expectations. In a way, Rachel and Meghan are victims of their own symbolism. They stood for something bigger than themselves. And when they stopped being perfect representations of that ideal, the public turned on them. But here's the twist. They're still standing. Rachel is still landing major roles, whether it's live-action Snow White or big-budget voiceover work. Meghan is still creating, producing, launching her own ventures. Neither one has faded quietly into the background, no matter how loudly people told them to. And that resilience, that's the real story. Both women are redefining what it means to be a public figure in 2025. They're not trying to be universally loved anymore. They've seen how fickle that love can be. Instead, they're building audiences that actually get them. They're choosing authenticity over popularity. And in today's landscape, that might be the most radical choice of all. So what can we learn from their stories? Maybe that fame is a mirror. It reflects what we project onto it. Maybe that we should think twice before dragging someone for being too polished or too confident. Maybe that behind every viral headline is a real person trying to survive a world that demands perfection and punishes vulnerability. Or maybe, just maybe, we need to rethink how we talk about women in the spotlight, especially women who dare to be more than the roles we assign them. Because if we keep building people up just to tear them down, then who's really the villain? Have you noticed the pattern between Meghan and Rachel? Do you think the public expects too much from celebrities, or are these falls from grace fair game? Drop your opinion below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more celebrity news.